Alright, how you doing guys? Today I'm going to be showing you my rank 4 spam deck profile, or as I like to call it, jank 4, because it is janky. It started off as like a 2016 Clown Blade kind of thing, and just kind of evolved from there into something that looks like it shouldn't work. This deck, like in theory, should not work at all, but for some reason it actually works fairly well and can steal a few wins here and there and piss people off while you're doing it because they realize it shouldn't work either. But anyway, if you like some janky decks like that, and I personally love them, this is definitely for you. But anyway, let's get into it. Alright, so starting off, I'm actually going to start with one of the extra cards. The main play of this deck is King of the Fairlamps. Now this is the main play because with him you can search your Gigabyte, which is our first card in the deck. Now that's important because Gigabyte can special himself if there's a spellcaster. And with this deck you're pretty much always going to have a spellcaster on the field. So if you say have like a Trick Clown and like a Goblinberg on field, you normal that, you overlay into King of the Fairlamps, detach the Trick Clown, search for this, the Trick Clown comes back, you special this, and you make 2 XYZs where you really should have only been able to make 1. So it's basically just a play extension deck with this card, and that's what most of the plays are based around. Alright, so now we'll get into the main deck. So like I said, starting off we have 3 Gigabyte because you're going to search him for play extension, and you pretty much want to max out because no matter what, he's going to be live and help you extend your plays. From there we have 2 Trick Clown, which is pretty much the secondary card of the deck. With things like Summoner Monk, you want to get him out because he also helps extend your rank 4 plays because you detach him when he comes back. He keeps your Gigabyte live for spellcasters, so overall really amazing. But we don't run 3 because you don't want to open a hand with just 3 Trick Clowns. And with things like Foolish, it's pretty easy to get them out. From there we have 2 Hat Tricker because you're pretty much always going to have 2 or more monsters on the field, so you just drop him for another free level 4. Next we run 2 Summoner Monk because he lets you get to your Trick Clown faster, and any level 4, but mostly you're going for a Trick Clown off of him because that's an instant 2 XYZs right there. Also we have 2 Goblinberg because he just extends plays like a motherfucker. You can summon him, then summon the Summoner Monk, then you make a Trick Clown and keep going from there. You can normal summon him, then a Trick Clown, there's 2 XYZs. He extends plays like a motherfucker, so I love him. Next we run a few more cards we can search off of King of the Fairlamps. We run 1 Masked Chameleon because you're pretty much only going to search him after you've used your Goblinberg. So say you're getting ready for next turn, you can search out a Masked Chameleon if you have this engraved and have a free XYZ right there, just be ready for next turn. Also we have 2 Kage for basically the same reason as Goblinberg, he just extends plays like a motherfucker. And you can search him off King of the Fairlamps again to prepare yourself for next turn to keep advantage. We also play 1 Fairytale Snow because again it's easy to get out with things like Summoner Monk or Foolish. Also it's a spellcaster so it keeps your stuff live. And this card's just broken. This card is broken. The Banish 7 can be a high cost, but in this deck you're going to be turboing through a lot of XYZs. You'll be making things like F0. You're going to have cards engraved, so this is going to be live. Then you can Book a Moon something, go into an XYZ. Again, this is just a card that really extends your plays. Alright, now the next few cards are going to look interesting. We run 3 Mystical Elf. Now the premise for this is because you can turbo it out with Unexpected Dive, which we'll be getting to later. And it's also a spellcaster, so it keeps your stuff like Gigabyte and other things like that live. So first turn you could Unexpected Die into this, or just normal summon it, then special a Gigabyte, or things like that, and keep going from there. So that's why we play it. We also play 1 Rescue Rabbit, because it's a free XYZ off of those, while keeping all your Gigabytes live. And next we play 2 Dragard. Now I feel like I'm the only person ever who has played this card in an actual deck. What its effect is when you normal summon it, you can special a normal type monster with less than 1,000 attack from your graveyard. And that's why we go with Mystical Elf, because it's the only spellcaster normal monster with less, or I think it might be the only normal spellcaster with less than 1,000 attack that's also a level 4. It would be great if it had 0 defense actually, because that would make Masked Chameleon live, but we can't ask for too much. So your Dragard can normal summon that. And that's why we run the Mystical Elf, because it fits the bill for all the other cards we have in here. Next, like we already mentioned, we run the 3 Unexpected Die just to get your play started. Turbo off from there. 1 Silent Doom, which specials a normal type monster from your graveyard. So you could just bring back your Mystical Elf, again, make sure Gigabyte's live, let you keep going off. 1 Instant Fusion, bring out Norden, free XYZ right there. Doesn't need much explanation. 1 Rhoda just for our Goblinbergs. We run a Rhoda and 2 instead of 3 Goblinberg because you can also ditch this off of Summoner Monk. Next we have 1 Foolish, set up your Fairytale Snow, get a Trick Clown out, lots of great stuff with that. 3 Twin Twister because this deck hates back row. You can play through it a little bit, but you really don't want to see it, so mostly you just want to Twin Twister the back row, ditch a Trick Clown, get it back on field. stuff like that. It can also make your Dragards live, it can make your Mass Chameleons live, so the cost isn't too high, and it gets rid of your opponent's back row. Next, it's a rank 4 deck, so for control we play Rafflesia. So we run a Bottomless, a Floodgate, and a Time Space, pretty much the standard trap hole package. This was a suggestion from some of my friends at Locals. 3 Storming Mirror Force. Pretty much the logic behind this is it just adds to the fear with Rafflesia. So you're going to have a lot of, like, to be honest, you will have a few useless XYZs in the field, like King of the Feral Imps. So your opponent's not going to be scared to attack into those. But if you have 3 Stormings, and you flip a Storming on them, it gets in their mind that there could be 2 more, and then they'll be more afraid to just wildly swing into your monsters when you have back row. And that's pretty much the logic behind the 3 Storming, and this definitely has won some games. Next we play 2 Call the Haunted, just to bring stuff back, get you started again. So if you have a whole bunch of dead cards in your hand, you can bring back a Spellcaster, special off from there. You can make Hat Trickers live, you can bring Norden back. Lots of great things you can do with this card. And for our last card, we run 1 Solemn Warning because probably the best, one of the best traps in the game. And it's a 1-of, doesn't take much space, and can steal some games. Alright, so that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, we run 2 King of the Feral Imps because he's your play extender, and you really don't need 3. I like to run 3 just because then you can keep doing stupid shit by bringing this out, search more. But my friends at Locals convinced me to cut it down to 2, so that's where it's staying for now. And then after that we run the Utopia package. We don't run the middle one, but honestly you could cut something and run the middle one, which I'm honestly thinking about doing because this card's just way too strong. And having that second 5k attack ready really puts pressure on your opponent. Next, Dark Rebellion. Steal half the attack. I've used this. This card comes in handy more than you'd think. Like say against Infernos, if they have Tierra out, you can steal half the attack and then just sit on this. So you don't make them live again, and you can just sit there and build up resources. So it's slightly situational. It's not always good to its full potential, but it's pretty much always good because everyone's going to have big monsters out pretty much. Next we run 1 Trapeze Magician just for that second attack. You have Spellcasters, so you can make it. It enables OTKs. I like to use this on stuff like Dark Rebellion for more high power attacks, or you could use it on F0, swing into 2, and then you don't even lose your F0 at the end of the battle phase. Next we'll play 1 Crooked Cook. This is just good to go into if you don't have anything else on field, so you're just sitting on him, he's unaffected. I mainly play this because I have one friend at Locals who used to play Medolches a lot, and he'd bring out a Rafflesia first turn, and I could just normal summon this, and not be worried about the Rafflesia because it would be unaffected. But this is probably the card that can be cut the most for whatever you want, like the Middle Utopia package or just any other rank 4 that really fits your fancy. From there we play 1 Honor Arc because it outs stuff without destroying it. 1 Castell, pretty much the same reason. 1 Diamond Direwolf just to clear back row, and if you need to out something after you've used Castell and Honor Arc, that's where he comes in handy. 1 Giant Hand for that stun factor. He's honestly pretty bad, but he's the only monster negation we have in the rank 4 pool, so that's why he's in here. 1 Daguster Emerald for consistency, and also because he is a play extender in this deck, because with his second effect you can bring back your Mystical Elves and keep going from there, so he also functions almost like a 3rd King of the Feral Imps. Then we have our 1 Rafflesia for stun, and because we're going to be making a lot of rank 4s, monsters of the same rank, we have 1 F0, great against things like Cosmo, he's another out stuff. Just overall a great card. And finally 1 Fusion. 1 Norden for our instant fusion target because he's way too strong not to play. Free rank 4, if you bring back a Spellcaster, you can make your stuff in hand live again. Definitely too good to not play. Alright, we still do have a few honorable mentions for the deck. First is the 3rd King of the Feral Imps. Maybe one day I'll fit him back in there. 1 Gemini Elf. Gemini Elf is pretty much what you're going to want to run if you're not running Dragard, because it's a big 19 beat stick. So you bring this out, it can swing over a few things. Basically, if you're not running Dragard, run this instead of Mystical Elf. Next, we have a few trap tricks. We have Myrmelio and Dionea. These were originally in the build just because you could normal summon them, Kage Tokage, if you special glitch, you can pop a spell and trap. But they are a little bit slow. The theory was just to add some fear to the deck. You know, like normal summon this, add a trap hole, you have a little bit of fear factor there. But it was just a little slow, so they ended up getting cut. Next, we have a few Spirit cards. We have, well, Spirit in the name. We have Aqua Spirit and Rock Spirit. Rock Spirit is if you're running Mystical Elf, and Aqua Spirit is just for the deck in general either way, because you can banish Gigabyte, special this out, and keep going from there. And that's it for the honorable mentions for this deck. Alright, so combos for the deck. There's not really much to explain. It's pretty much just spam out level 4 monsters, and then go into XYZs from there. The only thing you really have to worry about is just making sure that you're not making King of the Feral Imps when you can't resolve your Gigabyte. So, say if you just had these two on field, and you go into a King of the Feral Imps with nothing else, that's obviously a play you wouldn't want to do because your King of the Feral Imps isn't live. And that's the main thing you really want to watch out for in the deck, is that you're not going into King of the Feral Imps when your Gigabyte isn't live. So most of the plays are going to resolve around these two cards. So say you just null summon that, special this. You can make a King of the Feral Imps, detach the Trick Clown to add another Gigabyte. The Trick Clown will special itself back, and you'll have a Gigabyte in hand, live again. So it's situations like those where you want to go into your King of the Feral Imps. So you have your King of the Feral Imps, your 2 cards turns into 2 XYZs. So that's just one situation. There's also stuff like, say you have one of those out, and just one other monster. So obviously you have a reptile, a dragon, and a spellcaster. So you have to make sure you make your King of the Feral Imps while leaving the spellcaster on field. So you'll overlay the 2 non-spellcasters, go into your King of the Feral Imps. Detached usually either one. The only ones that really matter for detach are your Mystical Elf and your Trick Clown. The Trick Clown obviously because it'll come back, and the Mystical Elf because you can bring it back off of Silent Doom and Daguster Emerald. The only other one that really matters is Gothenburg because that'll make your Masked Chameleons live. But in this situation it doesn't matter, so just detach one of them, search out another Gigabyte, and because you still have your Spellcaster on field, your Gigabyte's still live for another rank 4 play. This time your 3 cards turn to 2 XYZs. And those are really the 2 situations you're going to find yourself in most of the time. One thing you also want to be aware of is to make sure you maintain advantage. So instead of, say you could make another King of the Feral Imps, search out a Gigabyte and make another XYZ from there, but you leave yourself with no play for next turn. Sometimes it's smarter to, instead of making like 3 King of the Feral Imps and XYZ, just make 1 King of the Feral Imps and any other XYZ, say something like Rafflesia for stun, and leave yourself something in hand for next turn to make sure you can go off next turn. Because that's what's really going to win you the games, is if you're able to keep that advantage over your opponent. Your advantage can also come in some other ways though. Say you do want to go gung-ho and just make everything in your hand, but you have, let's say, some traps in hand. So if you have, say, like these 3 in hand, then you can pretty much dump all the monsters out of your hand and not have to worry about it because you have ways to stop your opponent and ways to keep making your plays next turn with a Call of the Haunted. So just remember, your advantage can either come through your monsters or the back row, which is why we play it in this deck. Alright, and that's pretty much it for Jank 4 Spam. This is something I just sat down one day. I had a lot of these cards lying around and I just decided to make this. It actually turned out really well. Obviously it's evolved since the first iteration, but it's still pretty much mostly my creation, just something I really love in one of my favorite decks. Obviously I encourage anyone to play it. I love it. I think it looks a little boring, but it's actually really fun, and I just really love it. Now, if you're looking for more Yu-Gi-Oh stuff on the channel, I also have the Worst Deck of All Time series going on right now, where I play really awful decks online on Yu-Gi-Oh Pro and get my shit pushed in by usually some pretty shitty decks themselves, just less shitty than what I'm playing. I also have a few other deck profiles on the channel, like zombies. There's only a few now, but there will definitely be more up later because I have a lot of decks that I want to share, because my favorite thing is just building decks and just getting them to work, and I just love deck building, so I'm definitely going to have more deck profiles up in the future, so keep your eye out for that. But anyway, that's about it all. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, get bunny blasted.